This zombie deer that bit a woman in half with one bite. Its name is Bambi. It originally lived carefree with its mother in the forest, but one day, greedy humans came to this forest. They shot and killed Bambi's mother with one bullet. After going through countless hardships, Bambi finally grew up healthy, and it raised the next generation. But humans came to the forest again to cut down trees and build chemical factories. Eventually, all of Bambi's family members were slaughtered by humans, and it also mutated after accidentally consuming industrial wastewater. With deep-seated hatred towards humans, it transformed into a bloodthirsty zombie deer. Completely unaware of this, Xana was driving in her car at night. She was planning to take her son Benji back to their hometown to visit Grandma Mary. Unexpectedly, while driving halfway, a tall male deer suddenly appeared in the middle of the road. The 2-ton car was actually flipped over by this male deer using its antlers. Xana and Benji weren't injured because they were sitting in the back seat, but the driver was trapped by the deformed car cabin, pressing down on his leg. He couldn't escape at all, even more terrifying. The male deer had no intention of leaving. Instead, it repeatedly kicked the car with its hooves, seeing the cabin creaking and starting to deform. Xana couldn't worry about the driver. She apologized to him while pulling Benji to escape from the other side. After running more than 10 meters, she saw that tall male deer now standing on top of the overturned car's chassis, roaring wildly at them. Its mouth was full of sharp fangs. It looked exactly like a land-based great white shark, and it was the mutated little deer Bambi. At the same time, at the end of this dark highway, an old lady wrapped in a white nightgown was strolling along the edge of the pitch-black forest. She kept muttering Bambi's name. She seemed to be able to see through the dark forest to Xana and her son being chased by the zombie deer, and she was Benji's Grandma Mary. As for Benji's family members, they were currently preparing dinner in a nearby villa. Michael had prepared a lavish feast to welcome the mother and son. Harriet was leisurely drinking on the side, complaining about how Benji's father Simon was unreliable, not showing up to such an important gathering without any notice, and not even calling the family in advance to let them know. Andrew quickly explained that there's no cell phone signal in this remote mountainous area. As for the landline, it was disconnected by the phone company because Mary with dementia kept making false police reports. Harriet suddenly remembered. She hadn't seen Benji's Mary for a while. She quickly went out to look for her. She led Mary to sit on the sofa in front of her stepson, instructing him to take good care of Mary. But Harrison was currently busy playing video games. He didn't take her words seriously at all. Just then, Mary suddenly said, "They're coming." At the same time, Xana and Benji, who had been running frantically through the woods for hours, finally arrived at the door. Mary, who appeared to have dementia, seemed to possess some kind of ability to predict the future. Soon, Xana told her family members about her ordeal along the way. The mature Michael suggested everyone stay home and wait until daylight, then figure out a way to call the police, and let the police handle it. But Andrew felt his older brother was too cold-hearted. The poor driver was still trapped in the car at this moment. The sooner they called the police, the sooner they could save him. With that, he put on his jacket and left the house, looking for a place with signal to call for help. On the other side, several bounty hunters were searching the woods with guns. They were hired by a biotech company. They came here specifically to capture Bambi and bring it back for money. They didn't find their target, but they saw the overturned car. However, the driver was nowhere to be found by now. He probably ended up in Bambi's stomach. The three men searched through the car together. Soon they found Xana's phone that had fallen in the cabin. They guessed the phone's owner had encountered Bambi's attack, so if they followed the trail, they might be able to catch it. They excitedly held their guns. Following the trail Xana left behind all the way, they happened to run into Andrew, who came to rescue the driver. The forest was pitch black at night. One of the hunters thought it was Bambi coming. He instinctively pulled the trigger. Andrew was inexplicably taken out just like that. At the same time, Mary in the living room once again took out her sketchbook and started drawing non-stop. But no matter what she drew, it was all depicting an extremely majestic deer. Benji frowned as he looked at Mary's artwork. The more he looked, the more it resembled the zombie deer that attacked them. And Mary had somehow run to the window again, staring intently outside. Soon after, the lights outside began flickering on and off. Benji quickly called out for his mother by the time Xana hurried over to check. Bambi had already charged to the window. Xana quickly pulled up Mary and Benji, fleeing toward the inner room. Then Bambi crashed through the floor-to-ceiling window and charged into the living room. It swung its sharp antlers, rampaging wildly. The others also screamed and scattered to escape. Harriet hid under the kitchen cabinet. Just as she was breathing heavily, she suddenly felt water droplets falling on her head. She instinctively looked up. Harriet screamed and ran to the bathroom, shutting the door. Unfortunately, Bambi was extremely intelligent. It could actually use its hooves to open doors. The terrified Harriet directly crawled into the small bathroom window, but her figure was too bulky. After struggling for a long time, her butt was still stuck in the window. On the other side, Xana and the others took advantage of Bambi's absence, helping Mary transfer to the family's classic car. This classic car, about the same age as Mary, started acting up at the crucial moment. Michael tried starting it for ages, but there was no response at all. As Harriet and Bambi's passionate chase came into everyone's view, everyone held their breath in terror, and Harriet, who couldn't outrun Bambi, was pierced in half by the sharp antlers. Instantly taken out, the classic car was probably shocked by what it witnessed too. It successfully started on the spot. Seeing this, Bambi also abandoned its current midnight snack and took off in pursuit on all fours, with its tall stature and long legs, running at full speed. It gradually caught up to the classic car in no time. It rammed the car's rear with its antlers repeatedly. Harrison pulled out some rocks. Leaning out of the car window, he pelted Bambi's head with a barrage of stones. Unfortunately, such weak attacks had no effect at all. Instead, it enraged Bambi even more. It accelerated again. Soon it was running parallel to the classic car. At the critical moment, Michael ran into another problem. The classic car's gear lever was stuck. Michael pushed for ages, but couldn't shift into fifth gear. Seeing this, Xana also reached over to help. The two of them working together finally managed to push the gear lever into fifth gear. The classic car drove at full speed. This finally allowed them to gradually shake off Bambi. On the other side, the hunters who accidentally killed someone had no intention of giving up. They followed the footprints all the way to Xana's house, looking at the villa that seemed to have been demolished and Harriet, who was down to her last breath. The three men immediately got excited. It seemed the zombie deer was nearby, and Xana and the others were forced to stop again. After driving on the forest road for more than 10 minutes. A long piece of wood was lying across the road. With no choice, everyone had to get out to find rope, wanting to tie it to the wood and drag it away. Benji and Xana stayed in the car to keep Mary company. At this moment, another terrifying roar came from the end of the road. Bambi had caught up. Benji was terrified. He completely ignored Harrison, who was working below, and floored the gas pedal. It happened that the rope from the wood got tangled around Michael's leg, instantly dragging Michael down and out. Soon, he was also taken out, and seeing that Bambi couldn't catch up to the car, it simply turned around and charged toward the unlucky Harrison. Harrison was terrified and quickly darted into the nearby woods. He stumbled and fled forward, but how could two legs outrun four legs? Just as he was about to be caught by Bambi, he suddenly stumbled and fell to the ground with a thud. His delicate, pale face landed right in a pile of excrement. Harrison was so disgusted he started dry heaving. At this moment, Bambi had also reached behind him. At the critical moment, Harrison couldn't care about being disgusted. He simply buried his head in the feces again. The pungent stench made Bambi think he was no longer fresh. It sniffed around Harrison repeatedly, but ultimately gave up on eating and turned away. Having escaped disaster, Harrison couldn't care about washing his face. He quickly got up and walked deeper into the woods. Suddenly, a rabbit jumped out and blocked his path. The cowardly Harrison kicked the rabbit away, venting his frustration. Unexpectedly, several more rabbits darted out of the woods. By the moonlight, Harrison discovered that the rabbits had also mutated. As more and more rabbits surrounded him, Harrison could only keep backing away. He accidentally tripped and fell again. His head landed right on a bear trap set by the hunters. With his painful death throes, the mutated rabbits hopped over and started their buffet. Soon Harrison was completely devoured. As for Benji, he kept driving while dragging Michael, only stopping when the car ran out of gas. Only then did Xana remember that Michael was still being dragged behind the car. She quickly got out to check, but Michael had already been reduced to mush. There was no point in trying to save him. At this moment, Mary with dementia suddenly became lucid. She actually got out of the car herself and walked straight toward the depths of the woods, muttering, "Death, death," repeatedly. Xana and Benji quickly chased after her, just as Xana was pulling Mary to go back. Benji discovered something on the ground. He immediately pulled the pin on his flare. By the light of the fire, they realized the ground was covered with bones. They seemed to have accidentally stumbled into Bambi's lair. Xana didn't dare stay a moment longer. She pulled Mary and Benji back to the road. Fortunately, they hadn't walked far when they encountered a passing car. Xana quickly flagged it down for help. Little did they know, the driver was Ben, the leader of the hunters. He had watched Harrison's gruesome death through surveillance and came specifically to pick them up. Soon the car stopped at the hunter's base. As soon as the car stopped, footsteps could be heard from the shadows. Ben alertly drew his gun. The person in the shadows quickly stepped out and greeted Ben, seeing that the newcomer was also a professional hunter. Ben put away his gun, and it was Benji's father, Simon. It turned out Simon's delay in returning home was also because he was eyeing Bambi's high bounty. He had been plotting to capture it in the forest all along. Only when he saw his wife and son did he have to reveal himself. But as soon as the couple met, they started arguing again. Xana blamed Simon for bringing them here, causing half the family to die, and still not letting her call the police. Simon explained that once they called the police, his plan would be ruined. He might even end up in prison. While the two were arguing, Ben wasn't idle either. They caught a young deer in the woods, thinking this little guy might be Bambi's weakness. So they put it in an iron cage and arranged for two subordinates to quietly transport it to the depths of the woods, planning to wait for Bambi to come and capture it. Little did they know that Benji had been secretly following behind them. At this moment, a hunter who had drunk too much coffee suddenly needed to urinate. He dropped the iron cage and ran to the side to relieve himself, but unexpectedly, Bambi had already been lying in ambush nearby. The other hunter waited a long time without seeing his companion move. He ran over to check but discovered his corpse. He was so scared he vomited up his dinner on the spot. Realizing Bambi was nearby, he frantically ran toward the car. Just as he got in the car, Bambi's ferocious head crashed through the glass. At the same time, Benji, who felt great sympathy for the young deer's plight, quietly opened the cage while the hunters were away and carried it out. Ben, who was watching the surveillance from the base, saw that his plan was about to be ruined. He immediately grabbed his gun and rushed over. At this moment, Xana discovered Benji was missing. She called out for Benji while searching everywhere, but instead found where the hunters hid the bodies. Here she saw the missing Andrew. Realizing that Ben and his group were ruthless desperados, Xana became even more panicked. But at this moment, someone was more panicked than her. The female hunter guarding the base had just discovered that Bambi had charged into the base, opening its bloody jaws toward Mary, who sat there motionless. But Mary didn't seem afraid at all. She just sat there quietly, staring at Bambi. Instead, the female hunter, after seeing Bambi through the surveillance, immediately packed up to flee, but she made noise, attracting Bambi's attention. Bambi instantly turned and charged toward her. With no escape route, the female hunter decided to take a desperate risk. She shot and hit a nearby gas tank. The explosion's bright light illuminated the night. Xana and Benji were able to see each other by this light. The family was finally reunited, but Ben rushed over with a pistol. He demanded that Benji hand over the young deer, but Benji hugged it even tighter. Simon on the side knew that Ben would really shoot. He quickly tried to persuade Benji to let go. Little did they know that the explosion hadn't killed Bambi at all. It charged toward Ben with its still burning fur. Ben quickly turned his gun and fired several shots. But at this moment, the enraged zombie deer was fearless. It charged forward against the bullets, carrying Ben off into the depths of the forest. Seeing Ben's phone fall to the ground, Xana quickly bent down to pick it up, but Simon got to it first. At this moment, the terrifying Bambi returned, its eyes fixed on the young deer in Benji's arms. At this critical moment, Simon, afraid of going to prison, actually abandoned his wife and son, taking the phone and running away. Xana knew Bambi's target was the young deer, so she didn't flee. She actively handed the young deer over. As soon as the young deer touched the ground, Bambi immediately calmed down. It didn't attack Xana in front of it. Instead, it stuck out its tongue and started licking the young deer's head. Just as Bambi let its guard down, the bloodied Ben actually got up again. He drew his gun for a sneak attack. The bullet precisely hit Bambi's most vulnerable abdomen. Bambi let out a wail and collapsed to the ground, just as Xana fell into despair. Mary suddenly appeared like divine intervention, carrying a hunting rifle. She shot Ben dead with one shot. As for Simon, who had fled in panic, he discovered there were several strange rabbits in the car. Sensing something was wrong, he prepared to open the car door, but the rabbits immediately pounced on him, biting through his main artery with one bite.